Hey missionaries, welcome to our last session of the Modern Day Missions fundraising series, Support Raising Made Simple. And I know what you're already saying and what you're already thinking. How in the world do we make support raising simple? Raising funds has been the most challenging aspect of my missionary journey. I get it, I've been there. Stick with me though, because in this last session, we're going to learn why clarity, confidence, and the correct biblical perspective are essential in our fundraising efforts.
Rob, you've been a friend for a handful of years now, and it's just an incredible privilege to have you here on the Modern Day Mission Set. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, love having you here. For those of you who don't know, Rob Parker, he's been in full-time ministry since 2006. He's the founder of Prepare Ministries. He's trained thousands of missionaries to raise their own financial support. And today, for this segment, this video, we're going to be talking about support raising made simple and developing a sustainable lifestyle of partnership. That's a mouthful, Rob.
Yeah.
So Rob, support raising seems to be, when you look at it, seems to be complicated, or at least that's what you hear. Maybe even a word like daunting, challenging for sure. So the question is, how in the world do you make support raising simple? I'll just throw a softball question for you to start it off.
Right. Well, if I had to be honest,
Please do.
I do. Yeah. When I say simple, that means understanding what needs to be done and how to get there is really not that difficult.
Yeah.
If you're feeling a lot of anxiety and you're stressed and there's a lot of question marks, everything seems daunting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But like many things, once you experience it and go through it, it's not near as challenging as you thought. And like many things, once you've done it a few times, it gets much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like for example, when a young couple has their first baby, it is just so much work and so many things to remember and so much lost sleep.
Yes.
But by the time you get to that third one,
Yep.
you find out there's a whole lot of things you just don't have to do.
Yes.
You find more of a rhythm and a sleep schedule, and
Absolutely.
that third one isn't near as hard as the first one.
Yep.
And so that's one reason why getting really good training is so vital. It's so that you put all your energy into proven practices that work, and you're not wasting your time on things that you think you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So training and coaching can really take a massive amount of the learning curve out of it for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's training and coaching is somewhat like learning to fly in a simulator.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn in that simulator without burning millions of dollars in fuel.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I like
And
that.
so that's part of it. The other part of it is we tend to make something in our mind much more complex and daunting than what it really is.
Mm.
Okay. Now that's hard for people to hear because right now they're feeling all kinds of anxiety and that, everything.
Right.
But when you go through the training and you get your mind renewed and you have a coach help you and they can literally help you take one step at a time, it takes some of that fear factor out of it.
Mm-hmm.
For example, here in a few years, Marvin, you're going to be teaching your children to drive.
Mm. That's all right.
And it's going to start in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to be on the curb. And then it's going to be in a church parking lot on a Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
You don't start with a manual transmission on the freeway at 4:30 in the afternoon. You don't start there.
I hope you don't.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Well, missionaries often do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
With
Great
support
point.
raising. So they're creating a thing that stresses them,
Mm-hmm.
and they need somebody to show them and de-stress them and help them see a simpler way.
Yeah.
But also, when I say made simple, is the model that I teach, there's nothing special about it at all, Marvin.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, once you go through the training, it's almost offensive how simplistic it is. because everybody's anticipating some kind of magic email formula or magic text formula or 2 or 3 apps that you're going to use and a frequency and the right adjective, and this is going to prompt everybody to give. Not at all. Partnership is really a servant who knows what their assignment is, sitting down, talking to another servant, and discussing how their assignments might overlap.
Yeah. Man, love that.
It's really quite simple.
Mm-hmm.
There really is no convincing or selling, it's sharing.
Mm.
And if I ask you to share about what's passionate for you, for example, I could say right now, Marvin, give me 60 seconds on why you love your wife.
Mm.
You'd smile first,
Yeah.
nod your head, and then
That's a great question.
you'd go into 60 seconds and you'd have no trouble talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because you love her, you would defend her.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about her confidently, unashamed.
Mm-hmm.
When we understand what our assignment is, when we understand whom that one we love, who loves us and what he's called us to, and your service is coming from a place of love, it's so much easier to sit and talk to people. Okay?
Yeah.
Because, Marvin, I'm in ministry because of that man.
Yeah.
I love that man.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see him receive the honor, respect, love, obedience, and worship that he deserves.
Mm.
I'm not really sharing my ministry model or strategy. I'm sharing why I'm in ministry at all.
Yeah.
And it's that man.
Right.
It's the honor of that man. It's for the glory of that man.
Yeah.
That people would know, love, and obey that man.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sit in a partnership meeting, that makes it more simple.
Yeah. Everything flows out of that.
Everything flows out of that. Okay. Also, I know that partnership, now I mean biblical partnership, not my model, but biblical partnership is God's preferred way.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm talking about what I love and I'm inviting them through a means that I know is biblical, it gives me the confidence to be able to share.
Yeah.
I tell this story often. A gentleman who I know, and he knows what I do, he was having a partnership meeting with one of the missionaries I trained.
Mm-hmm.
And after the meeting was over, he called me. And he said, "Hey, I just had a meeting with one of your trainees." I said, "How'd he do?" He goes, "Well, he did really well till we got down to the ask." Then he started fidgeting around and started telling me everything that he was doing and made another loop around it. And he just meandered for about 5 minutes. And he goes, I finally just interrupted him. And Marvin, I won't ever forget what this guy said. He interrupted the young missionary and he said, "Your lack of confidence to ask is robbing me of the confidence to give."
Mm. Wow. Powerful.
That right there sums it up.
Yeah.
When you get clarity about who you're serving and why, when you get clarity about what real biblical partnership is, then you take that confidence into that meeting. And it's not a hyped up pep rally kind of energy.
Yeah.
No, it's that confidence that we have that Hebrews talks about where we can approach the throne of grace with confidence.
Yeah.
Why? In our self-righteousness that we've created?
Yeah.
No, we can approach the throne of grace with confidence because we know the one sitting there and how he's going to greet us and how he's going to receive us.
Yeah.
We're approaching someone who's already died
Yes.
and shed his blood for us.
Right.
So I can come boldly.
Yeah.
Boldly isn't arrogant. It's confident in how I'm going to be received by them.
Right.
In a similar way, I don't have to change my personality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this to young missionaries right now. You don't have to become Rob Parker.
Right.
But if you're clear on what you're serving and why and who, and you're clear on real partnership, now you step into that meeting and you share from a place of passion and you invite them into that biblical principle.
Yeah. Yeah.
That idea is not hard.
Right.
It's hard to imagine when your mind's not renewed.
Yeah.
And it's hard to imagine when your heart's not set free.
Right.
But that I just described a temporary situation
Yeah.
that we can fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
After that, it's just a matter of priority. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Some people hit me with this. It's always an exaggerated response. Well, Rob, I can't be raising support 10 hours a day. Great. I wouldn't ask you to.
Mm-hmm.
Or, Rob, I can't spend a year trying to raise support. And of course, there's always some much more deeply rich spiritual reason why they can't do it,
Right.
you know. But it doesn't take that kind of time.
Yeah.
Marvin, you would be shocked at the number of people I've helped that raised their monthly income in 3 months.
Wow.
Now, they were at the start.
Yeah.
They'd finished Bible college, went through some training. Now they're landed with an organization. They raise their support on the front end. They're totally focused for 3 months. And I want to say, as much as that is possible, if you're listening right now and you can start your ministry or relaunch and do it by raising your support on the front end, that's by far, I don't want to say better. I'm saying it's easier in the fact that once you get into that rhythm, it's much easier to stay in that rhythm, and it gains a momentum. And before you know it, your 3 months has passed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not the only way.
Right.
It's just, if you can do it, let's do it.
Yeah.
But if you're married and you got 3 kids and you're living on another continent,
I hear you. Continent.
yeah, if you've got ministry restraints and all of that, there's still a way forward. It just takes a little bit more strategy, a little bit more planning.
Right.
But like many things I do with partnership development, having a goal, having a plan,
Yeah.
having some steps, taking small steps frequently, you get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a cliche thing, but
Right.
you literally do reach the top of Mount Everest one step at a time.
Yeah. Well, if I'm hearing you right, and again, we're on this topic of support raising made simple. If I'm hearing you right, man, it is, I know the one who I'm in love with,
Right.
Jesus, the man,
Right.
our Savior. I know what I've been called to do, and I love what he's called me to do. Now I need to love the people he's called me to do it with. And that would be our donor base and our support team, right?
Right.
And so there's this love and there's passion in all of those things. That's kind of a foundation in making this simple. And then coming alongside of that is the prioritization, the intentionality of developing a plan and a pattern and executing that plan of action of raising support with this team of people. And so there's a lot of intentionality there. There's a lot of work. That's a lot of passion. That's a lot of love, all of the things. And so I guess that leads me, as I'm thinking through this and thinking, as a missionary, how does a missionary go about creating a lifestyle for this, so that they can keep it simple and a plan that they can execute and that they can stay in love with everything that needs to be stayed in love with,
Right. Right. Yeah. So Marvin, when I answer that question, let's just say this. Number one, you've bought into doing partnership and you've been trained.
Yeah.
Let's just assume those two things are being done. Okay. Now, you can take a season, a focus season. If you're at zero partnership, I've seen so many Americans raise $3,000 or $4,000 in 3.5 months. Okay, and for a young couple, it goes a long way. I mean, they're nearly fully funded. For 24-year-olds.
Right.
You could take a focus season. I've seen other situations where they're working, they've got ministry, they can't really walk away from ministry real easily. So we work like 1 or 2 days a week that they can focus on it and implement those best strategies and best practices that they learn from the training. And then it's a matter of time. I remember helping a worship leader. And this worship leader, in addition to leading corporate prayer meetings in their missional context nearly every day. They also traveled and was a guest at conferences and stuff, well-known worship leader. And they needed to raise support. Well, they couldn't take off and go do 3 months and walk away from their assignment. And so what we did is we worked out a plan where he's going to Buffalo for this conference. He's been there 2 or 3 times. He's already got friends. He would send support raising communications ahead of time. He would go a day early, have a couple meetings, do the conference, stay a day late, do the face-to-face meetings, and come home with a couple partners. Well, he traveled like once a month. So he did that every time he traveled. And he went from 0 partnership to $5,000 a month in 14 months.
Wow.
Without ever missing a day of ministry.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Took him 14 months, but $5,000 a month, for a young family living in the Midwest, that's pretty decent. That's, and that was $5,000 more than he had.
Right. Yeah.
So there's different models and patterns like that we can implement. That's where a coach who can look at your opportunities, your situation, and help you create a plan that's best for you at the time. But it really starts with being committed to do it because I've bought into it and my mind's been renewed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did have a conversation with a leader one time, and this subject came up. And he goes, "You just do not understand my life. You do not understand how busy I am." And I said, "It's not about being busy. It's about priority." And he really got mad. And he started telling me all the stuff that he was doing and why he didn't have time to raise support. And I shouldn't have done this, Marvin, but I did. And I kind of regret it now. I mean, we're good friends, but still, I wished I hadn't done it. I said, "Hey, you just finished your master's. How long did that take you?" He goes, "I did it in 14 months. I said, "Your book just came out too. How long did that take?" 1 year. I said, "So in the last 14 months, you've finished your master's, and you've wrote a book." I said, "You had time to do those."
Right. Priority.
All that time that you spend on your master's and your book, why don't you devote that to partnership now? And he goes, "I got other things to do." And I said, "No, you found enough time to do what you prioritized.
Yeah.
And you just told me that your book and your master's was more important than funding your ministry." That's what you just told me.
That's exactly right.
We make time for what we care about.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I want to be careful here, Marvin. I'm not asking you to care about your ministry less. I'm asking you to care about it enough to set aside some time to fund that ministry. Okay?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You're a father.
That's right.
I am too. Because you love that family, you leave that family and you go and raise some money. Your occupation.
Right.
Well, would it be loving to stay at home and play with them 8 hours a day and not work?
No.
Actually, loving them is providing for them.
Right.
Okay? Here's another example. I heard it just yesterday, and I'm probably going to hear it later today. Okay? You're on the airplane, and they run you through the safety deal about, in the event of a water landing.
Yes. Yeah.
That phrase. Well, there's a point where they show you how to put on your mask, your oxygen, and they instruct you to put it on first before you help anybody else.
That's right.
Why is that, Mark? Because when you're passed out on the floor, you're helping no one. Okay? In a sense, missionaries have to take a minute and put their own mask on where they can't help anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
When it's an issue of priority, when it's an issue of passion, When I go into that partnership meeting, I'm not even thinking about money. I'm thinking about the people I'm ministering to.
That's so good.
When I go into that meeting, I'm thinking about the glory of that man.
I hear you.
I'm not even really thinking. The money almost becomes incidental.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a matter of priority. We will find the time for the things that we care about.
Yeah.
Do you and your wife do date night?
Mm-hmm. We do.
Why?
It's a priority.
So what, you take the kids with you?
No,
You don't?
we don't.
You just leave the 7-year-old at home by himself, or what do?
No, we get Nana and Papa.
You make arrangements. You
Mhm.
plan ahead. Why? Because it's important.
Mm-hmm.
We value it.
That's right.
And you set aside a little bit of parenting kid time for your spouse.
That's right.
That's a loving thing to do
Mhm.
for your spouse and for those kids.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see?
Yes.
And so sometimes we get this mindset that I can't step away for a day because the ministry is too important. Actually, by not stepping away at all, you're killing that ministry.
Yeah. Wow. Completely different way of looking at it. Man, that is excellent, excellent counsel there. What is Rob, what would be a starting place or a good habit that you would recommend to missionaries who are out there listening to
Yeah.
or watching this, a place where they can start a good habit to create
Yeah.
this topic?
Yeah. Marvin, that question comes up a lot. And I say this. Well, let me back up just a second. Some people ask me, Rob, why is your partnership development training so long? And I say, because you got to get your mind renewed and your heart set free before I can teach your hands and feet what to do. Just show me the technique. No, if your mind and your heart's not set free, you won't do the technique right.
Yeah.
And so really the starting point is getting proper training.
Mhm.
You got to get your head and your heart in the right spot. So the first step is being willing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And being willing to commit to it. It's just like any other career where we have to have specialized training.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want my doctor getting his degree online in 8 weeks.
That's true.
He puts in a lot of time because he's committed to a certain kind of career and he invests a lot of time and energy. And we think nothing of it. I mean, right now, most pastors have to put in about 6 years of education to get a job, and then they have to be on the job trained before they land their first pastorate.
Mm-hmm.
And so missionaries should be willing to invest the proper time and energy for that assignment as a career.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
So you get good training. But then, as much as it is possible, you create the vacancy in your life to do it. And that means something really good is going to have to stop for you to do the better thing.
Yeah.
And I recommend that married couples talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I remember when I did it the first time, my wife and I, we sat down, we talked about, because I was working a marketplace job and I'd come home and do support raising at night. Sometimes I'd have 2 meetings a night. And then on the weekends, I would do it all weekend. And so I was very absent for a period.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that and why we were doing it and got clear. And it's like, hey, this is only going to be 3 months. We're going to run hard.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it. In that, we also made agreements about when's your day off and what night are you not going to raise support.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there had to be a night where my wife knew that I was going to be home and she could leave and go get a coffee, go hang out with the girls, go to Walmart, something.
Yeah. Yeah.
She needed that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we blacked out that time and I worked appointments around it. But we agreed. Marvin, I'm originally from Kansas. And one thing that you would see every year would be wheat harvest.
Mm-hmm.
And you would see those combines and trucks out in the field for, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days in a row. It's not uncommon to see those trucks lined up at the grain elevator, people humped over the steering wheel asleep.
Yeah.
Because when it's harvest time, okay, it's 24/7 until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Because the majority of your income is based on that small window of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so during harvest season, they didn't do Little League. They didn't go to the lake. They didn't do family reunions. They didn't do weddings.
Mm-hmm.
They carved out a small window of time and they went hard for a big return. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Partnership is really a lifestyle where you hit these seasons of really intense focus. Okay? A farmer farms every day,
Yeah.
but he only harvests maybe 2 weeks a year.
Yes.
But in between, he's fixing the tractor. He's taking care of weeds. He's taking care of animals. He's taking classes at the local community college and learning more about soil and germination and sunlight. And he farms every day
Right.
with seasons of focus. Okay? In a similar way, we live the lifestyle of partnership every day. We're meeting people every day. We're reaching out to people, scheduling appointments maybe once a week or every month or something. We're taking a focused 2-week season
Mm-hmm.
where we do step away from the ministry for 2 weeks, not 2 months. And we engage, whether you need partnership in the moment or not.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're overfunded, I promise you it's temporary. Okay? So you carve out the time and you invest in it. And when that window comes, you run hard. Meanwhile, you live the lifestyle that keeps you engaged with people, keeps your communication fresh, helps you meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? One of the worst things a missionary can do is be out of sight and therefore out of mind.
Yeah.
We actually have to develop the skill
Mm-hmm.
of meeting new people, starting conversations, and bringing that conversation to the point of an ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might take weeks, that might take a couple months, that might even take a year. But if we're so wrapped up in ministry that we don't have time to connect and to meet people, pretty soon you'll be in your own little bubble by yourself. And then pretty soon that bubble will burst.
Mm-hmm.
You hit a wall.
Yeah.
Here's the oversimplified way of saying it, and we can move on from here. But if you want different outcomes, you have to have different behavior.
Yeah.
You are not going to get funded by not changing your patterns and your habits and your time.
Right.
We have to change if we want to see change.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned before this model, kind of catchy, the 222 model.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not saying that right.
You
but
are saying it right.
Okay. Can you expound on that and just let the listeners, viewers know
Yeah.
what you're talking about
Yeah,
there
yeah,
with that model?
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of came up with it as just a simple way to communicate the principle, and that is this. 222 is based on 2 hours a week, 2 days a month, 2 weeks a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, to stay funded, you really need about 3 weeks a year. But 223 didn't sound near as cool as the
Yeah.
222 model.
I
Okay?
understand.
But here's what it's based on. If you break your partnership down and create a pattern of life of Monday through Friday, I'm going to be communicating with my mailing list and people in a text and having a coffee. I'm going to spend about 2 hours a week on relationship.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I've found you don't need 2 hours.
Yeah.
Most people, they can do an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when I say an hour, I mean 15, 20 minutes on a couple of emails, 15, 20 minutes on a couple of texts, a conversation at a coffee shop, maybe a phone call to a partner
Mm-hmm.
or a potential partner. Okay. But I say 2 hours a week, probably more like one.
Yeah.
That's kind of cultivating, keeping the ground loose, staying in front of people so that when your partnership season comes, you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So I spend about 2 hours a week staying connected and communicating. And I do that in transitions, gaps, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I only have a few times a week where I really lock in, like on a Monday night, and say, this is when I'm going to make phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The 2 days a month, for me, that works out to most generally, I'll dedicate one whole day to my newsletter. It's usually a Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing I try to do is I try to have at least one or two appointment. I'm going to ask someone for partnership.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do that at least once a month.
Wow.
Okay. Now, based on, I don't want to say law of averages, but what we've experienced in terms of how many people will say yes to how many people you ask, if you're asking 2 people a month, you're going to gain about 1 partner a month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Marvin, that doesn't sound like much, but if you got 20 or 30 partners and you're living this lifestyle that gives you 1 a month, now at the end of the year, you got 32, 33, 34.
Mm-hmm.
Then you enter into that next 2, which is 2 weeks a year,
Yeah.
where you step away from the ministry assignment. You've been prepared. You've mailed your letters. You got a bunch of people you're going to reach out to. You're going to have, in that 2-week period, you're going to have about 25 to 30 appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. About a third of them are going to partner with you. And so now by the end of the year, you got about 40 partners and you just started with 20.
Yeah. Okay. Well, right there, you said 2 words, potential partners, and it just kind of struck a chord inside of me. And I think missionaries listening will identify with this is, that means that there must be a network of relationships somewhere that you have with people. And so, how are missionaries supposed to go about knowing who potential partners are? Where are potential partners?
It's easy.
You know?
Every believer that you know is a potential partner.
Okay.
Well, here's why. Relational equity is not a prerequisite to partnership.
Mm-hmm.
I've had total strangers partner with me. Okay, Marvin, I'm not kidding you at all. I got a friend. He's just a likable guy and he's a great communicator. About half the time he gets off the plane with a new partner. There's enough confidence and trust built in that hour-and-a-half flight. He gets a partner.
Wow.
Okay. But here's the thing. We encounter people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can reach out to your banker, your dentist, the person that is a post carrier, the UPS guy that's on your porch twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay. There's all kinds of people that if we want to, you can develop relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
There's pastors, there's churches. We encounter them, the Little League family.
Yeah.
I mean, my son played baseball since he was about 6, wound up playing some college baseball, was on travel teams. And we got to know a number of families, and you spend the whole baseball season with that family and you make new friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So really anyone is potentially a partner because nobody you meet is exempt from the Great Commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There doesn't have to be a ton of relationship. Now, some people think there is, but givers don't.
Right.
Givers, if they have confidence and trust and they think you're good soil and they think you're going to bear fruit, they're in.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to them, they want to bear fruit.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't care if it's Bible translation, orphans, Africa, campus ministry. It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
If they believe you and they trust you and they think you're going to be fruitful, they're in.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all kinds of potential partners around.
Mm-hmm.
If we're just drawing on our closest friends who believe and trust us, you're going to have about 3 partners.
Yeah.
Here's another shocking thing. Here's another reason why you need to be trained. Is because your closest friends mostly do not partner with you.
Mm. Wow.
Most people I train, their teams are made up of acquaintances and total strangers.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Let me say this. If you and I was to start training today,
Mm-hmm.
and you went through the training and you launched out into your campaign 30 days from now, when you were done, 35% of your team would be made up of people that you currently do not know today.
Unbelievable.
This is another reason why you need to be trained.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
I'm saying this kind of fun. Hey, there's 320 million people in America. 1/6 of them are believers, and they all have a responsibility in the Great Commission.
Yeah. It's simple math.
Yeah. I mean, I had some friends in Southern California, Hispanic culture. They were struggling. He says, Rob, I've done everything I know to do. And I said, hey, you live in LA. There's like 20 million people in LA. I said, there's probably 5,000 churches. Go talk to them. Well, I don't really have a relationship with them. I said, go talk to them. They all have a responsibility in the Great Commission.
Yeah.
And we walked through that, and we talked about church packets, which is part of the training. And we talked again about 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later. And he said, Rob, I'm fully funded. I said, really? How'd that happen? Which I shouldn't have done, but I made him say it,
Yeah.
Well, he went and engaged people,
Yeah.
and he went and met them.
Yeah.
Marvin, it is astounding how many people say yes when you ask them.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
We just think it is on the front end. We have the enemy lying to us. We have some kind of bad theology here and there, misunderstandings about money, some missional tradition. And in our head, it's all just so elusive and so impossible.
Yeah.
In fact, I was with a young woman who was giving testimony about the training and her experience, and she was encouraging people to do it. And she said this interesting thing. She said, I used to look around, I'd see missionaries funded, and she goes, I just thought there was some kind of little magic dust that God just sprinkled on them, and it was easy for them. And
Sure.
I just didn't get the dust.
Yeah.
But she said, but what the training did is, she says, it removed all that suspicion. It removed all those theories. She goes, it actually it healed a lot of my heart and delivered me from a lot of traumatic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it set me up to move forward. And then when I worked with a coach, step by step,
Yeah.
my husband and I got fully funded.
Well, and that's what I keep on this topic, support raising made simple. The two words that keep coming up are training and coaching.
Mhm.
Training and coaching.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of utmost important, paramount.
Yeah.
You would say that training and coaching would be something that missionaries would embrace.
Yeah.
And putting them on the right path, the right mindset
Yeah.
for all of this. And I know with Modern Day Missions, our podcast, we've interviewed a number of different people who have fundraising organizations or coaching organizations, and it seems like maybe those efforts have multiplied in the past 5 or 10 years. But you've been doing this a long time, Rob.
Mhm.
And so on that topic of training and coaching, getting practical, what do you recommend? But then also tell people what you offer in that realm as well on that topic.
Marvin, when I say coaching, it's important to know that I'm talking, when I say coaching, I'm talking a little bit more like a sympathetic person who can guide you, but they know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we could use the sports analogy too. It would be like a sports coach without the yelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm contrasting that with the whole life coaching model that's been so popular the last 15 years or so. This is not life coaching.
Yeah. Right.
And sometimes that's what people are thinking they're going to get when they talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Where life coaching is a lot of like, you just ask questions. You don't tell people what to do. You're asking people how they think or how would you. No, this coaching here, I'm telling you what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So without the yelling.
Right.
But that coaching is like, okay, hey, let's start right here. I know the steps. I know
Mhm.
what you need clear in your mind.
Yes.
I can hear when your heart's set free and when it's not.
Yeah.
I can hear when you're telling me what you think I want to hear, and I can hear when you really believe what you're saying,
Yes.
And so it doesn't even have to be me. It can be someone who has some experience,
Mm-hmm.
But what we sometimes do, and we offer coaching services, we coach strictly connected to our training model.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to coach people who didn't use our training model, and it's hard.
Right.
Simply because when I say, hey, what's your vision statement? They go, I don't know what you're talking about. And I go, hey, let's take a look at your church packet. They're like, I wasn't trained on a church packet. So it's important that the coaching comes from the same model that you were
Got it.
trained from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
It's like that football team. You got to have the same playbook.
Right.
Okay. So we do that. But what we do in our coaching services, once they've completed the training, we now help them go through the steps of getting prepared, that ramp up period, vision, name list, map out where all your contacts are. Let's look at the amount of time that we have to put in it. And we start putting together a plan and a pace of approach, a pace of reaching that they can do and sustain, and helps them reach their goal in a reasonable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If somebody says, hey, I feel like maybe I could, maybe have one appointment a month. Well, it's going to take 2.5 years
Right.
to get funded, and you're going to lose part of your partnership in that. You're going to lose 14% of your partnership before you're done.
Yeah. Right.
So we got to do it in a reasonable amount of time. And coaching helps set pattern, finds that number. We've done it so many times. If we pick a number of how many people you're reaching towards in a week, I'll tell you exactly how much money you'll have at what date.
Wow.
I mean, it's really simple.
Yeah.
The more people you talk to, the more people are going to say yes.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah.
And so we want to talk to as many people as we can without sacrificing the quality of that connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coach helps you do that.
Right.
Then in our coaching, we can help with the language. We help walk them through an ask, help them walk through presentation. We just give them an outline of presentation. We don't write it for them or tell them what to do or say, because all those ministries are so diverse.
Right.
But we give a little bit of a rough outline of how you start, how you transition, how you do an ask.
Mm-hmm.
We teach them how to do multiple asks in the meeting, one for partnership, one for special gift, and some others.
Right.
And then we show them how to wrap up and finish a campaign, and all the kind of loose ends and the undecideds and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We usually have about a 3 to 4 month long coaching relationship with them. A month of it's ramp up. Then we got about 2 months of appointments. And by the time we're hitting 2 months, they really get it. They've already done it. They've had enough meetings. They don't really need to ask me questions. They just want to be assured that they've got the right answer.
Yeah.
And then we might taper down from there. And, we don't do a contract. We ask people to, sign up that we do it month by month. You can do it as little or as much as you want. We share the averages with them. And so most people spend 3 to 4 months with us, and they get fully funded.
Rob, where can people connect with these resources? Where can they connect with you?
I would say probably the best place to connect with me is through our webpage, which is prepare-ministries.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Rob, man, this is a wealth of knowledge, experience, and information that I know is ministering and helping missionaries. So glad that people are going to be able to take this in, and I'm encouraging everyone to reach out and connect with you to go deeper into this, to get the training and the coaching, because it seems so vital and so important to success in partnership development and becoming fully funded. And so please, everyone, I beg of you, connect with Rob, reach out and make that connection. And so for us here at Modern Day Missions, Rob, we are so appreciative of your friendship with us and everything you do for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Very special.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
I just want to be an encouragement.
Yes.
Marvin, having coached and trained for over 15 years, I can honestly look you in the eye and say this with confidence. Being successful in partnership is not about person. Okay?
Yeah.
In fact, the guys that are kind of charismatic, they have a lot to unlearn.
Yeah.
And they are not wildly successful.
Wow.
Okay? I'll tell you who's been the most successful with me. is the young female who doesn't have a glamorous job and doesn't feel like she has any skills. Because,
Interesting.
and I know this is going to sound a little bit arrogant, but she's successful because she's so scared she does exactly what we tell her to do.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Marvin, there isn't anything special about our model. What's special is a servant understanding that they're a servant, understanding what their assignment is, understanding what biblical partnership is, stepping out, sharing that passion that's on their heart, and letting the Holy Spirit do the rest.
Amen.
Okay? Now, I'm going to make a statement. I'm not saying this to impress you. I'm saying this to try to encourage the young missionaries that are listening. Okay? Every person I've trained that completed the training, went with a coach, and did what the coach said, every one of them in the last 15 years has reached their full funding mark, except one.
Wow. Over 15 years.
Over 15 years. Marvin, that's not because my model is so awesome. It's not. As I mentioned before, it's so simplistic, it's almost offensive.
Yeah.
What it is, though, gets to the biblical core of what we are, what the church is, what missions is, what real partnership is.
Right.
In other words, it gets you set free from a bunch of wrong thinking, which leads to wrong action,
Yeah.
which leads to wrong speech.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody can learn to do this. Partnership development is a skill. And skills can be learned. It's like typing. Anyone can learn to type.
Yeah.
Anyone can learn to drive a car. Pretty much anyone, given proper instruction and time, can learn to play a musical instrument if they want to, and if they give themselves enough time and they have enough quality instruction.
Yeah.
It's just a skill. It's not a personality type.
Yeah.
When people tell me, Rob, it didn't work for me, I make them define, what is it? When you said it didn't work, define it for me. And then you find out their vision's not really that clear. They only did part of the model, 3/4 of stuff they left out. You didn't really do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is not about personality. This is about God wanting to prepare the earth for his son. It's the glory of his son. God cares more about us being funded than we care about being funded.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't call you out into missions to embarrass you.
Right.
And so we have to go into partnership knowing that this is God's idea. There is a God way, and God has a team for me.
Yeah.
Somewhere, some way, God has a team for me.
Yeah. Rob, thank you for sharing that. I know that it was encouraging to me. I know that was encouraging to the listeners too. And thank you for being on the set with us today and
it's my pleasure.
everything you do, honestly. And not just for Prepare, for Modern Day Missions, but just for the kingdom at large and for missionaries at large. We just say thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
I hope this session was meaningful to you, and just know that I and the Modern Day Missions team, we're praying for you as God reminds and reveals his many strategies to fundraise your ministry. To connect with Rob Parker, Prepare Ministries, or any additional resources mentioned in this series, please go to the description below or visit our resources tab on the main fundraising series page at modernday.org.